Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. As always, let's first sit for 30 minutes, and this week we get to read some of the sayings of Kodo Sawaki. But before, let's just sit for 30 minutes.
我们还跟之前一样，先做30分钟，坐禅，然后再一起分享今天分享泽木老师那本书。
Thank you very much for joining Zazen. And this week is Sawaki week, 2U week. 2 weeks ago we finished with the first chapter. The whole book has about, I think, 34 chapters. So if we continue in this pace, we have enough material for a whole decade, which is good. I'm not in a hurry. So I start reading page 12 in the English version, chapter 2. The chapter has the title, To You Who Think There's Something to Being In. We all want to be part of the group. We want to be part of the cool people. That's the topic of this chapter. The first quote goes like this. You're always hanging on to others. If somebody's eating French fries, you want French fries too. If somebody's sucking on a candy, you want a candy too. If somebody's blowing on a penny whistle, you scream, Mommy, buy me a penny whistle too. And that doesn't just go for children.
我们这一周呢，继续分享 Sawaki 老师的那本书。然后这周我们开始分享第二章。第二章有一个题目是，你给那些朋友，就是给你那些认为自己必须要在一个什么组织里面，你必须要属于什么组织里面的这些人，你总是依赖于别人。如果别人在吃薯条，你也会想吃薯条；如果有些人在吃糖，你也想吃糖。如果有些人如果有某个人他在吹口哨，在吹哨子，你就会说啊，妈妈，买一个哨子给我。然后这些呢，不只是对于小朋友，对你也是这样的。
When I translated this book, first I translated it into German and later into English, and there's an American monk who helped me. His name is Jesse Reho Harsh, and I think he came up with this idea of a penny whistle. Actually, a lot of these quotes by Sawaki Roshi are difficult to translate because he uses a lot of words that are out of the common usage. For example, here the Japanese original is kintamabue, and I never heard about it. I don't even really know what a kintamabue is. In German I said Pimmelflöte. I don't know if that's if that's a real word either. But I think penny, what does he say? Penny whistle. Penny whistle is a good translation. Anyway, here Sawaki Roshi is using the example of kids to speak to us. Most of the time we don't really know what we really want. We don't really know what we really want, but when somebody has something, we want the same. But then when we get it, often we realize it's really not what we wanted in the first place. So we look around. Does somebody else have maybe something that I don't have yet? We want to have what the others have, or when we buy a car, or when we buy a house, or maybe even when we look for a girlfriend. We don't really look so much for what we want, but we look for something that we can impress the others with. So if others envy us and say, oh, I would like to have the same thing, then for some reason we feel good that I have a car and everybody is envious of this car.
穆浩老师的这本书呢，他一开始其实翻译的是德语，然后后来翻译成了英语。他翻译英语的时候呢，有一个说英语是母语的朋友，可能跟他一起帮忙翻译了。它里边其实日语原版的，就是 Sawaki 老师这本书，有其实好多词都没有听过。你像刚才我其实翻译的时候，我也没翻译啊。他刚才说那个 penny whistle， 就是penny 什么就是1分钱，很便宜的一个口哨，什么意思呢？就是说我们大部分人呢，在很多情况下，你不知道自己真正想要的是什么，你想要的往往是别人有的。看到别人有什么，你就很想要什么。可是真的，当你有了别人现在有的东西之后呢，你又会再向周围看啊，还有什么是别人有的，我现在是没有的。就是你总是在看别人，然后来考虑自己到底是想要什么。比如说像我们是像别人有车，你也想买车，像房子或者是女朋友，你现在想要的东西不是考虑到自己真的想要什么。我们很多人总是看别人有什么，然后再考虑啊，我好像没有，然后我也想要。
The next quote goes as follows. When spring comes, you let spring turn your head. When autumn comes, you let autumn turn your head. Everyone is just waiting for something to turn their head. Some even make a living turning heads. They produce advertising.
然后第二个这个名言呢，就是当春天来的时候呢，你就让你的头脑里面变成了春天。当秋天来的时候呢，你就会让你的头脑变成了秋天。每个人都在等待，是有什么事情来进入他的大脑，或者说你去想什么事情，呃呃，然后甚至是我们在生活在在我们日常的生活当中，或者是在你的生活当中，像大家就是有的那个广告，也其实是这个意思，就是你总是让这些东西来进入你的头脑里面。
When Sawaki here speaks of spring turning your head and autumn turning your head, I think he's referring to the Japanese custom, and maybe in China you have the same custom of viewing cherry blossoms in the spring and then viewing the momiji. What's the English word for that? Acorn? I'm not quite sure, but in the autumn, in November, the momiji leaves are supposed to be the most beautiful when they turn red. And usually in Japanese TV, already some days, sometimes even weeks ahead, they say, well, this year the cherry blossoms are going to be a little bit earlier or a little bit later, and this spot is supposed to be the most beautiful. So in Japan, usually in this area, there's an area in Nara prefecture called Yoshino, where supposedly the cherry blossoms are very beautiful. Or also in Osaka, there's certain areas that are supposed to be the most beautiful. So everybody wants to go there. And it's unbelievable. The rest of the year, there's almost nobody in those areas. But when the cherry blossoms are out, you can't move. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to have seen the cherry blossoms. And in the autumn, it's the same with the momiji. Kyoto is supposed to be the most beautiful. So all these Zen temples that have the famous momiji trees, they are so crowded, you can't move. But everyone wants to have to see them. And everybody wants to take a picture of them with the trees. But why? Because basically you want to show that you've been there. At the time of Sawaki, there were no SNS yet, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. But today, sometimes it's even more important to take the picture for the SNS than to actually have seen the cherry blossoms or have to seen the momiji. So in a way, everybody today is into advertising business. It's just that we now try to turn other people's heads on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And the amount of heads that we turn, which means the amount of thumbs up that we get, has become much more important for us than what we have actually seen. Or, for example, the lunch we eat. The lunch we eat is less important than the picture that we take of the lunch and the amount of thumbs we get for the lunch. And at the time of Sawaki, there was no SNS, but people's minds were already thinking in that way. They were not really interested in the cherry blossoms or the momiji, but when TV tells them you have to go there, everybody's going there, then you go too.
然后这个其实第二个这句话呢，那个日语可能和中文都有相应的那个句子啊，就是春天来的时候，你脑子里就有春天，然后红叶来的时候，你脑子就有红叶。我也不知道这个格言是怎么说的啊。然后，但是在日本的时候呢，就是电视上总是会提前报道，比如说今年那个满开，就是樱花满开是什么时候，然后是红叶就是最红的时候是什么时候，然后呢就会在电视上报道。大家都是每年可能像奈良有一个地方特别有名，就是大家都去看樱花，可能一年这个地方都没人，只有在电视上发了广告，然后说啊今年就是满开是这一天，然后只有这一天的时候大家都去，人山人海，然后那个都走不动道了。就像京都也是好多特别有名的寺庙也是哈，一年这个庙都没有人，只有红叶满开那几天，只有电视上跟大家说那几天，然后才会有人去看。然后我们并不是，就是在 Sawaki Roshi 那个年代呢，它没有网哈，就是没有那个像我们现在的朋友圈啊，然后没有脸书啊，然后没有 Instagram。那个时候呢，大家都是看别人有什么，然后你就被别人洗脑哈。然后呢，其实就是和我们现在那个是一样的。你有没有真正看到红叶？你还是去只是为了照相，然后放到网上让大家点赞，还是说你真的就看到那个红叶，你喜欢那个红叶，你感受到那个红叶？还有就是像大家吃饭也是，你是真的觉得你在享受那个美食，还是你拍了一张照片，想让大家知道你在吃这个美食，或者是你看到别人去吃，然后你也想去吃？就是你没有，你总是关注于被这些事情所洗脑，而没有看到自己其实实际上面所吃的东西、所照的照片、所当时的那个情景，其实是更重要的。
Do you have that custom in China too, to go cherry blossom viewing and then in autumn again momiji viewing? Do you have that? Same as in
I
Japan?
I think we have, but I don't know how to say it. 我们
嗯
怎么说的？你们有印象吗？就是那个什么樱花来的时候，什么红叶来的时候，I don't know
嗯
有印象。
Because in Germany, I think we have nothing that you can compare. People like to go hiking, but it's not like in Japan that everybody needs to go at the same time to the same spot.
哦，是不是那个春去什么秋来？是不是那个叫什么春去春来？什么什么？Maybe I think we have
。Well, today it were only two quotes, but maybe I'll stop talking here. And if you have questions, if you have anything that you would like to share, please don't hesitate. Feel welcome.
大家有问题可以提啊。
Anything that you would like to ask or comment? Yeah.
小磊，小磊，
好，我来问一个啊，抛砖引玉啊。那个老师说啊，别人做什么你就想干什么，然后呢，总是把所有的目光都向外看。然后呢，那老师说的是让更加关注你自己想要什么。那我想问老师，那我自己到底想要什么？可以通过哪些途径来知道我到底想要什么？我怎么去探索我自己到底想要什么？那我当下可能看别人想要，我也想要，但是我自己真正想要的东西，我怎么去知道我自己到底想要什么？绕口令似的。
So how do I know what I want? If I don't look at other people, I don't compare, I don't look around. How do I know what I really want?
How do you know? How do you know? Good question.
完了，然后了，你把老师难住了。
Good question. I think you asked a couple of weeks ago, or you commented that you kind of by nature like to please others. Do I remember that right? Or was that somebody
Oh,
else?
I think that's 林虚, that's 鹏鹏.
Ah, that was somebody else. Okay. Yeah, it's difficult for me to answer because I was never really so much interested in other people. So what other people did never really interested me so much. So I personally always knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. And I'm also not the guy who tries to please others. I mean, I try to not be a pain in the ass of other people, but I don't try to please other people so much. So it's hard for me to answer if you really have the feeling I don't really know what I want. Oh. Does anybody here have an answer to that? If you're not sure what you really want, maybe you don't want anything. That would be perfect. Like I personally, I don't really know, don't want so many things. I mean, I have some basic needs, of course, but apart from that, if somebody's driving a car, I don't really think I need that car. I want that car as well. If somebody's living in a big house, I tell myself if I would be living in that house, it would be a pain in the ass to have to clean it. So thanks God, thanks God I don't live in that big house.
我感觉老师就是他的意思，好像就是说，其实你没有必要知道你想要什么。就是你看，老师他举了自己的例子嘛，就是说，他看到别人有什么，说他其实反而更庆幸我没有，因为他没有那个压力。就是你没有必要一定知道你真的想要什么，其实有的时候没有反而更好。我觉得我是这么理解的。
Any other questions? Anything else you want to share? Xuan, you're raising your head?
Yeah, but in yoga practice, we say abhyasa and viragabhyam. It's like your practice and there's no attachment. If you don't practice, I would say if you want to test somebody really doing yoga or you're really practicing the real yoga, don't test their technique to test if they have they can do no attachment. So but other way, if you don't really want something, it's hard to improve. It's hard to get better. Yeah, that's my question. If you don't really want to, if you have no desire, it's hard to start a practice. Like when we do Zazen, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to have no desire also.
Yeah, if you decide for a way, you need a certain determination. You have to dedicate yourself to that way and determine I'm gonna walk this way even when it gets difficult. That's true. Do you have any other questions? Anything else? Nothing? Okay, well, officially the class is from 8 to 8:50, so we can finish often we do overtime, but we can finish here. This is the last June class. In July there will be 4, but actually I will be away from Osaka on the 18th and the 25th. So I won't be here, but Xuan will be teaching pranayama twice. So the first 2 times Zen and the second 2 times yoga breathing technique with Xuan. And Liat is very happy about that. Yeah. So next time we talk about a Zen phrase, some Chinese phrase again, and then the second time in July will be Sawaki again. Thank you everybody for joining. I hope it's not too hot where you are. Stay chilled and see you again next week if you like. Thank you very much. Have a nice Monday. Have a good week.
Thank you.